Hey, John, thanks for joining us. John is from Wallets.Africa. He's here to talk about his entrepreneurial story plus the business of wallets in Africa. So why don't you give us a quick pitch for what does your company do?
First of all, such a pleasure to be here talking to you on Premal. I think the bulk of the work that you guys did in the past decade sort of laid the foundation for what I've been able to achieve over the past 3 years. I'm a huge fan of PayPal, of course, Premal and Matt. You guys essentially revolutionized lending here. Uh, this was something even banks couldn't do
Oh, thank you.
uh, for a couple years. So well done.
So Wallets Africa, we are building financial tools for Africans and African-owned businesses. We started out as a consumer app, and late last year, in 2019, we started supporting businesses. Now we have about 6,000 businesses and about 90,000 users that we support in Nigeria. Our core product offering for consumers is our card. That's our leading feature. Then we'll just layer other financial services on top of that. And now we also support businesses.
In 2016, McKinsey came to Nigeria. They wanted to build a digital bank. Started scouting. Yeah, so yeah, you guys were here. So they started scouting across fintechs and companies to see which engineers to talk to. A couple people recommended me to talk to them. So I went, spoke to a couple of the engineers there, and they brought me on board as a solutions architect. And we started building the back end of Alert. Alert did really well, up to 50,000 users in the first 3 months. I felt like my work was done after the product had launched. There's a couple of reasons why. The first reason was we were trying to build a bank within a bank. The bank guys were not too happy with that. So, it's like building a smaller version of us. So there was just a lot of things I couldn't understand yet.
Yeah.
So I stepped out. So when I stepped out, I went to InterSwitch. At InterSwitch, I helped them build a couple products. The most significant one was a system that allowed FMCGs to reward their customers with cash. So as an FMCG, like Guinness, you open a Guinness bottle, and underneath the cover, you see a code. You take that code to an ATM, and you get cash. It worked like magic then.
Sounds nice.
Did really well. Yeah, did really well. Deployed for Nestle and a couple people, Cadbury. Then from there, I had this idea that, I should be able to pay for Netflix. So you see, the way I used to work then, Madam Premal, is I'd tell my girlfriend who was in the UK then to give me a card, and I'll use it to pay for my Netflix. And that sounded just boring. Each time I just like, hey, can you give me your card? And it's not just for Netflix, it's for Amazon, it's for Google games, like Play Store. So I spoke to a couple of friends and said, how do we try to put together a card for Nigerians in Nigeria that allows you to use this product, right? So it's like people just don't have access. So we built that. That was the first version of Wallet. The moment I got a call from a friend of mine that he had a bin available, so I used this bin at the time to create the card.
Your friend just had a bin. That's the kind of the first several digits of a Visa or MasterCard number, and it's kind of I don't think I have any friends who have a bin. Like, what was your friend issuing cards under?
Yeah, it's quite popular. It's quite popular. So he was issuing cards, Premal. He had a payments company. He had gotten.
Wow.
And I was like, yo, can I build cards on top of your product? And, we did that. Very straightforward. I showed to all my friends that, look, it's working, right? So the technology
What did you call this product?
Wallet.ng.
That was the birth. That was the birth
That
of
was
it.
the birth.
Product number one.
Yeah, Wallet.ng. And it was really straightforward. I showed it to all my friends, and they were like, look, this is it. This allows me to pay for my things. Then from there, I started running a few ads, and then mobile money agents discovered the product, and that was when we went really viral, right? So they started using the product to pay for their Facebook ads. They started using the product to pay for their games. People would come to them to say, look, I'm trying to pay for this thing, and they'd give them the card to pay. Then we started thinking of ways to make the money stick, right? So we started layering other services that these mobile money agents do: transfers, bills pay, airtime. So look, the first month in 2018, that was when we went live. We did about $25,000 in transactions, transaction volume. By the end of the year, we did about $3 million in
Wow.
transaction volume. Yeah. So that picked up really fast. This was
Were you one of
PayPal.
the only products in the market that enabled people to, pay for Netflix, Spotify, kind of solve this, or were there several products in the market when you launched Wallets?
So there was a couple products in the market when we launched. So in fact, we're not the best at it. The bank that I helped build a lot already had it. Border by Florida, we've already had it. Um, there was a couple banks that were trying to float a similar product. So I think we were not the only guys in the
And
market.
what do you mean that you weren't the best at it? Like you weren't necessarily better or worse, or there was something that you're doing that was inferior, yet you still got $3 million worth of volume in that first year.
No, we're not. We were not the first at it.
Okay, got
That's
it.
what I
Yeah,
meant. Yeah, we're not the first at it.
yeah.
Then it took us a while to become like the major provider of virtual cards and now physical cards for people. So that got us into YC, Premal,
Yep.
in Winter 19. And, I went into YC full of confidence. Let's do this. Then I met with a couple partners and like, how do you turn this to $1 billion business?
Yeah.
Right? Like there's all these people in Africa. I'm sure they'd want to use the good things, but they probably don't have the money to even like pay for Netflix or Amazon. It's true. Then just write down the YC Hall. We see a couple of African entrepreneurs using that same product. This same product, they're using it to pay their employee salaries. They're using it to pay for their lifts. They were using it to pay for their Airbnb. And Michael Simon looked at me and said, "That's probably your market." It's these guys. These are the guys that would like do it. So we started contemplating. Then there was an influx of a lot of consumer apps in 2019 into the Nigeria space. There was HopePay, there was all these guys, getting tons of funding, and everybody seemed like they were doing the same thing. So it was like, how do we stand out, right? What's the moat here? So that was in late 2019. We rolled out a product for businesses. So it's really simple. The same product that we're offering to consumers, businesses will be able to do the same thing: pay online, receive money, and pay bills. So that worked out pretty well. Now we have about last year, up to last year, when like everybody was forced to learn how to use software to pay. Premal, see, during the lockdown, the banks were not open. Nobody was open, so nobody could go out, nobody could do anything. So people had to start downloading our app, use the app to first of all get an account number. It takes 3 minutes to get an account number when you sign up, and from there you can share the account number to friends and family, your clients, customers. Uh, you see, Nigeria is a fast-growing instant payments market. So one of the most widely used alternative to cash is peer-to-peer transfer. So people will just pay these businesses into the account numbers we give them. Then the businesses can go ahead to process their payroll, pay their employees. They're going to pay their office bills. They request a card from us, and about a week we deliver it to them. Then from there we started exploring a little bit of physical USD cards and a couple things just to layer VAS on top of that. So that's the journey so far. It's quite the journey.
How have the physical cards done versus your original virtual card product? When Matt and we were in Nigeria, it occurred to us, despite kind of the push from Visa and MasterCard to kind of get more physical cards, that it just didn't feel very promising as a product.
Hard to distribute.
Yeah, I think it's the distribution part.
Yeah. So
Right.
what's been your experience there?
Right. So what the first part we did, like I said, during the pandemic, a lot of things opened up. Logistics companies became better.
Mm-hmm.
So that way we could figure out a way to get the card to the users. Then because there was no alternative, because the banks were not open. So
Yeah.
if you need a card, your best bet is to get from someone that delivers to your house. So that's one of the things that worked out there, right?
Isn't it
We're seeing
expensive
quite
though to ship a card to a business? Must be expensive.
so to a consumer they mind.
Yeah.
To a business they don't mind. You see, the
Hmm.
alternative if you're not using the card in Nigeria is to use cash to take care of your expenses, and that opens up your business to fraud. So you don't mind paying the $8 that we charge to
For
get the card
shipping.
to you, yeah,
Hmm.
for and in exchange you have a product that works
Will you ship
for
it to northern Nigeria if I'm up in
uh,
the
I've-
countryside up there? Will you ship me a card?
yeah, we'll ship you a card. We've shipped to
Really?
a couple hundreds already. Yes. So Nigeria, I feel a lot of people that do the heavy lifting, NIPOS, they try. DHL is
Okay.
going pretty fast here as well.
Nice.
And since it's not a breakable item, you can use those companies to ship stuff.
Not breakable, but very important at the same time.
Exactly, exactly.
Wow.
So, John, you have a B2C business and a B2B business. You kind of power other fintechs and other financial service providers. How do you think about that split at Wallets? Are you going to maintain both, or are you going to kind of focus more on one or the other?
That's a good question, Premal. See, we started out to support consumers. We saw a lot of opportunity in businesses as well, but we didn't stop developing on the consumer side. Now we have about 90,000 customers that we attend to on the consumer side. These are people that came through these businesses or they came by themselves. So we continue to support them, the consumer side. Uh, of course, the bulk of the money comes from the businesses side. So a lot of our product focus goes into businesses.
Cool. So the kind of the B2B business helps you cross subsidize the value proposition for B2C, and it's kind of
Exactly.
shared infrastructure between both.
Both sides.
And yeah, yeah. Well, 90,000 customers, that's pretty significant. And so during the pandemic, that's been actually a boon for your business.
Yeah, it is. There are also businesses issuing accounts to consumers. Also, really made it make sense. So, expense accounts, employee accounts, consumer accounts, customer accounts rather. So, we're figuring it out. We're figuring it out. That's the
Yeah, John, what's been, I think, really impressive to me, just kind of watching you all over the last year or so, is just how prolific you and your team are at
Oh,
Wallets.
thank you,
I
Premal.
mean, you offer customers so many different services, and you're doing it on two fronts, kind of direct to consumer as well as powering groups potentially like a branch. And what's your secret? I mean, like, how do you, I mean, how many folks are over there and how do you guys actually just churn out the number of things that you're churning out? I mean, you have crypto wallets, like things are happening and they seem to be happening pretty quickly.
Right. So, I think so first of all, the team is quite young. So the one thing they want to do is prove themselves,
Yeah.
right? Including myself. Like even I'm the leader, and I still want to prove myself. Like there's tons of you guys that have done great things. So that helps us out. Then our culture is to actually ship daily,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So we don't know what we don't know, but we know if we ship daily, we're at an edge compared to Uh, so that really helps us. That's a key part of our culture.
Does that go with the
Then
app too? You'll ship a new version of your Android app every day.
no, it's like so there's so many things we ship, right? So there
Yeah,
are times where we ship APIs, there are times where we
of
ship
course.
products, there are times where we ship just features, right? There's something really smart a smart engineer put together recently that allows you to just um, update the app without updating stuff on the store. And because
Right.
all our apps are written in the same language, so that it
Hmm.
gives us this uniformity. So like I said, these guys want to prove themselves. This is the opportunity they've been waiting for. And now they are all backed by Silicon Valley guys. So they're like, look, I'm an engineer. I want to show the world I'm an engineer. So we're like, come here.
Yeah.
Here we won't tell you to wear a suit. Here we won't tell you to come to the office. We'll send you a Mac and you will prove yourself to the world.
That's awesome. You know, I've been generally confused by the CBN, I guess, is the thing. For years and years, we've heard that they're going to come out with this massive fintech regulation, digital banking regulation. And I feel like I've heard that same story for 4 years in a row, and nothing really has materialized in terms of like the type of licenses you need to get to be a lender, or even to be a bank. You get a microfinance license, but it's really a license that's meant for brick and mortar banking. You're supposed to have a vault in your office.
An office space.
They inspect your branches and stuff. So I don't know. As a Nigerian, I think you grew up close to Abuja or something. What do you think is going to happen? Or
Like
another question is, why is it so slow? Yeah.
Right. Like I said, so if you look at Nigeria, we change banks every 20 years. The biggest banks now were not the biggest 20 years ago, unlike the US, where you have the JP, the buffer. Nigeria is quite different. 20 years ago, there were banks that were way big, like people thought they couldn't fail. And now you have the GTs and the Zeniths and the Access, right? And people thought they couldn't fail. So what you see with fintechs now, that was how GT was. They could buy a commercial, well, some of them they started as a commercial bank, started as regional banks. Some of them started as a single location bank. They were not big. Then over time, they started figuring out hacks in the system. Then the CBN, like I said, like a referee, looks at the playing field, says, what's the risk here? Let's say I shut down fintechs. Piggyvest has billions of naira in savings. Branch has billions of naira in like lending book. What's the systemic risk? Or let's say I allow them to operate. Which areas can they not go into? And that's why they try to lead their regulations, I think, around what's going on right now, the playing field, right? There's a new framework a couple weeks ago for fintechs to partner with banks. So that way, if there's a service that you can launch and launch under the partnership model that was described by the CBN, go ahead. We have a couple of those today. We originally even started operating under that model. So like I said, it's trying to understand their role as an umpire. Sometimes the rules are not clear.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are no rules. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are no rules. So sometimes, exactly. So you can pay. Exactly. So it's just knowing who you're dealing with and accepting that, okay, this is the wild west. So how do I operate against these red tapes? Because they're there. They are there.
John, if kind of as the empire, the CBN, what do you think are like their top two biggest concerns related to fintechs?
I think FX. I think FX is a real concern for them. FX transactions. Yeah. People.
Yeah, we saw that.
We
saw that the mysterious regulation around you have to import USD into the wallet, or if you're a remittance company, you can't transact USD to Naira. You have to give the user US dollars. Is that right?
Right. I think so. I think FX. That's such a weird law, but it is out now, right? So now before now you could use SendWave or TransferWise or World Remit to send dollars. But you see, the problem with them was the dollars doesn't get to Nigeria. So you say $23 billion of remittances happened in Nigeria in 2019. And the CBN looks at you and says, where is these dollars that you speak of? There's no dollars here. So when you look at the law again, it's kind of like, okay, they're trying to protect the government here. There's such a huge amount of dollars that comes to Nigeria on paper, but doesn't get here. And that's why the exchange rate goes up. So to some extent, that's what I think the FX laws was there for. The second one is systemic risk. So like I said, that's something that concerns the CBN a lot. How does the financial system not collapse? How does an internet company not savage the entire economy unconsciously, because sometimes you just don't even know what you're doing. So, you're like, hey, that's there's a problem there. So how does this not blow up? So I think those are their two concerns.
Yeah, I think fortunately, no one here is kind of systemically important at this stage, and so that probably gives us some space to innovate and try things. And I really applaud that you just went ahead based on customer demand of allowing people to buy and sell Bitcoin, send Bitcoin, store wealth. It is one of these things where it feels murky, but we're seeing folks, of course, some of the most downloaded apps in the finance category are pure plays that allow you to do a kind of like Coinbase type equivalents.
Right.
What do you feel, John? You kind of it's like a Swiss Army knife your product, right? It does all sorts of things, and then you have these kind of more pure play apps in the space that say, Luno, hey, we do this and we do this really well. What do you think customers are going to gravitate to? Kind of a one-stop central hub? Will they want it bundled or unbundled on their phone? What's your view of customer preference in Nigeria?
Right. So some people find the product consolidated as it is now useful. Uh, the closest example that comes to my head is what you could do with your Facebook account in 2008, and now what you can do with it in 2020. So, in 2008, just post what you've been up to on your timeline, let everybody be. Now it's like, it's essentially the government surveillance system on your phone. So with wallets, the way I think about it is that knows everything about you. So with wallets, we
So you're
started
going to
out
do the
as
same thing.
no, we weren't. Over tested. But no. So we started out as a wallet account just for cards. Then, based on demand, people were like, look, why do I have to download another app for airtime? Why do I have to download another app for bills? So we layered airtime, we layered bills, right? And we've not done that much since then. But what people can do with their wallet account in 2019 is quite different from what they can do with it in 2021. So what you're going to see, what we think we are going to see from some users is, how many times do I buy crypto in a day, right? Probably once a week or once a month. How many times do I pay bills? Probably once a month. So why do I want to have like 6 different apps for the
Yeah.
same transactions, right? The same 6 transactions. You can do it from the same app.
Hey, so you're fundraising right now. What's the pitch and what's the investment thesis for can you just kind of refresh everyone around kind of what stage you're at, and then what would investors have to believe and what would they have to value, and what do you value from investors? Could just more context here for folks watching.
Right. So the short page is business banking for African SMBs, because that's where the core of our focus is. The problem is obvious. It's a businesses don't know how to manage their expenses because of cash. It's reverse run cash today. Then African debit cards just don't work for international products. This is a Series A. This is a Series A round that we're trying to raise. The use of funds is quite simple. We're trying to focus on building out our core products, grow our user base, then launch in Ghana, Kenya, and Ivory Coast. Then we want to help businesses do some merchant payment processing, as well as receive money internationally. For you to receive money internationally now, it's not going to come via Naira anymore. So we're working on virtual USD wallets for them to be able to receive money in addition to Bitcoin. To do that, you need a couple of licenses at the CBN. We're exploring it. We've already started the application for them. So that's what we're using the money for. What's interesting about our business is, unlike neobanks, we issue sub accounts for businesses. We also like unlike someone like a neobank that's quite popular, Kuda, we support businesses as well, in addition to consumers. Like traditional banks, all onboarding and transactions are performed electronically. So you don't have to worry about where your money is, whether or not you have to go to a physical location. Safety is not an issue. Then, unlike payment processors, we actually have a consumer product that businesses can pay into. That's pay their employees' wages and salaries. Not just that, the deposit sits in their wallet account, so you don't have to worry about withdrawing to another bank. So that's the long and short of our round. We like I said, this is a Series A round. We're already backed by a couple of top guys from Silicon Valley, backed by Y Combinator, Mozilla Corporation, Sequoia, Michael Seibel, Nayat Capital, and a couple of people as well.
If for those who are watching, if you haven't checked it out, go to Wallets.Africa or Wallets.ng. Both those URLs work. Is that right, John?
Yeah.
Well, it's plural.
Wallet is singular. Wallet is singular for NG. It's plural for Africa.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like a wallet across Africa.
It's a slick product, and there's kind of a steady drumbeat of new things that happen every month, and I guess now a daily basis, which is pretty incredible that you guys are shipping at that rate. And John, I want to congratulate you for building something that has value to so many people and so many businesses out there. It's really ambitious, and we admire just how much you're getting done. It's quite impressive.
Thank you, Premal. It means a lot coming from you guys. Thank you.
Good luck with everything. Let us know if we can help. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Matt.